Hello everyone. Today I am going to recap a movie from 2011. Elizabeth is a woman who is around the middle age and has a job as a teacher in a school for older children. Because of her job, one might think that she is dependable and caring. But it is the exact opposite. Elizabeth is actually a careless and rude woman who curses at the students and makes them watch movies in class. She often drinks alcohol or takes drugs. Elizabeth's only aim in life is to marry a rich man and take all his money. In short, she is a gold digger. Currently, Elizabeth is in a relationship with the son of a wealthy businessman, and things are looking good for her. One day, filled with arrogance, she abruptly resigns from her position at the school, believing she no longer needs to work. Yet, upon returning home, she is met with her boyfriend and his mother awaiting her. To her astonishment, her boyfriend declares that he no longer wishes to marry her. He has come to realize that Elizabeth's intentions revolve solely around his money and nothing more. Throughout the past months, she has been taking money from his wallet, his workplace, and even his mother's room to indulge in expensive purchases for herself. Although Elizabeth attempts to clarify the situation, he remains unresponsive and departs in anger. This leaves Elizabeth in a challenging predicament. Her aspiration of attaining wealth has been shattered, compounded by her newfound unemployment. Despite searching for jobs over several months, her lack of notable skills results in continual rejection. Ultimately, she sets aside her pride and returns to her former employer, the junior high school. On her first day, she bumps into her old nemesis, Amy Squirrel, and the two exchange some insulting words at each other. It is evident that both of them hate each other with passion. After this, Elizabeth heads to her class, where the students are delighted to see her back. However, she could care less. She doesn't even teach them and instead starts having her breakfast there. When the students start requesting for a new lesson, she turns on the television and makes them watch Stand and Deliver, saying it will help improve their grades. After this, she covers her face with her jacket and falls asleep in the class. During the lunch break, Elizabeth reconciles with her only friend in the school, Lynn, who is also a fellow teacher. The two chat about their lives, and Elizabeth reveals that she is planning to undergo breast enhancement surgery so that she can become more beautiful and attract rich guys. Meanwhile, we are introduced to the gym teacher of the school, Russell. Ever since the get-go, he has had a huge crush on Elizabeth, but she never entertains him. This is because he lacks the only quality she looks for in men, being rich. One day, a handsome guy named Scott joins the school as a substitute teacher, and when Elizabeth learns that he is wealthy, she immediately starts circling him. At an opportune moment, she bumps into him and introduces herself. She then cleverly makes him reveal his relationship status, which turns out to be single. Scott opens up that he recently broke up with his girlfriend and even goes on to show a picture of her. When Elizabeth sees it, she becomes jealous as the girl has a large chest. She also assumes that Scott only prefers those women, so she makes it her aim to undergo breast enhancement surgery. In the next scene, Elizabeth visits a clinic with the intention of completing a surgery form. However, when she discovers the procedure's cost is a staggering $9,000, she abruptly halts the process. With less than $50 in her account, she realizes she must postpone the decision. That evening, she contacts her friends and acquaintances, seeking donations for the surgery. Unfortunately, due to their awareness of her true character, they promptly hang up on her. Desperate, she turns to her ex-boyfriend, demanding $9,000 as compensation for their broken engagement. Yet, he too declines and ends the call, leaving her immensely frustrated. The subsequent morning in class, as Elizabeth passes time as usual, a student approaches her. The student offers a chance to have her car washed, explaining that the whole class is participating in a lively annual car wash event. Elizabeth doesn't even listen to her words, but when the student reveals that they earned $6,000 the last year, she becomes startled. Elizabeth then inquires which teacher is leading them to the event, and to her dismay, she learns that it is none other than her nemesis, Amy. Despite the setback, Elizabeth is unwilling to pass up on such a golden opportunity, so she heads to the principal's office and starts seducing him with her looks. Once he becomes aroused, she requests that he make her in charge of the car wash event instead of Amy. To her delight, he agrees without even thinking twice. The next morning, Elizabeth heads to the event in the most revealing dress that she can find. She then begins washing the cars, while also splashing a lot of water on her body. This shocks all the women around, but the men are happy at what they see. Even a policeman gets captivated by her beauty, so much that he crashes his car into another. Elizabeth then demands extra money from the men, claiming that her school is in dire need of extra funds for the students. Surprisingly, the plan works, as by the end of the day, she is able to make around $10,000. Elizabeth gives half of it to school and secretly keeps the other half for herself. Meanwhile, Amy catches wind of this and angrily goes to the principal. The latter is relieving himself in the toilet, so he is expectedly enraged at the sudden intrusion in his privacy. Amy claims that Elizabeth is stealing from the school funds and demands that she be punished. However, the principal says that he can do nothing until solid evidence is found against her. The next day at school is the annual parents-teacher meeting. As expected, many parents have lined up in Elizabeth's class, as all of them are angry with how their children are being taught. They confront Elizabeth and demand an explanation as to why she never teaches lessons and always plays movies in the class. In response, she simply says, "Don't teach me how to do my work." After a while, when the meeting ends, a concerned father approaches Elizabeth and secretly hands her $200, requesting that she give his son extra attention. This gives our cunning protagonist yet another idea. She meets with all the parents one by one and takes money from them, promising that she will give their children personal attention. Now, Elizabeth is only $2,000 short of her breast enhancement surgery. As the days pass, she continues being irresponsible and totally neglects her students. Elizabeth also turns down the advances of the gym instructor, Russell, but a friendship takes shape between them. Meanwhile, Amy has initiated a romantic pursuit of the affluent and attractive Scott. Their growing closeness triggers intense jealousy in Elizabeth. Eventually, Elizabeth's best friend, Lynn, reveals that the school plans to hold a teachers' competition. The objective is for teachers to guide their students to achieve the highest scores in the upcoming state test, with a cash prize of $5,000 at stake. This news elates Elizabeth, prompting her to finally engage in teaching. Starting the very next day, she arrives early to class, surprising her students by having them open their books. Determined to transform her approach, Elizabeth assigns homework and daily tasks. She even imposes strict rules against students conversing during class. This goes on for a few days, and the students greatly improve. However, it is still not enough to pass the upcoming state test, which is only a few days away. Elizabeth, who is desperate to win the $5,000 cash prize, decides to take matters into her own hands. That night, she dresses seductively and approaches a state professor named Carl, who is in charge of preparing and distributing test questions. The plan works, and the man immediately gets aroused and takes her to his place. When he heads to his bedroom to prepare, Elizabeth spikes his drink with sleeping pills, which Carl later consumes and gets knocked out. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Elizabeth steals the questions from him and gives them to her students. The following week, the test results come out and all her students pass with exemplary grades, hence making her victorious. Elizabeth wins the $5,000 cash prize, and with this, she finally has enough money to undergo the surgery. So, without wasting any time, she heads to the clinic and books an appointment. However, the next day, she gets dejected to learn that Scott has now started dating Amy. They appear to be deeply in love with each other. When Elizabeth learns of this, she comes up with a cunning plan. She injects an apple with some chemical and leaves it on Amy's desk, knowing that she is immensely fond of the fruit. As expected, Amy takes a bite out of the apple without even inquiring where it came from. By the evening, her face is covered with rashes and allergies. Fearing that she might spread it to the students, the principal appoints Elizabeth to replace her in the tour. In the next scene, Elizabeth takes full advantage of the opportunity and becomes close with Scott. That night, they even have intercourse in secret. Elsewhere, an envious Amy starts looking for clues to expel Elizabeth from the school. She goes to her class and tries scanning through her desk, but most of the drawers are locked. Hence, Amy switches her desk with Elizabeth's and then makes the janitor break open the drawers. To her delight, she discovers the question papers that Elizabeth had stolen from Carl. Following this, Amy heads to the principal's room and tells him everything about how Elizabeth cheated to help her students get good grades. This time, the principal believes her, but also says that he can only fire Elizabeth unless Carl confesses to the story. So, the same day, Amy confronts Carl in his office and blackmails him into confessing everything. She warns him that if he doesn't, she will expose all his wrongdoings in public. Reluctantly, the poor guy agrees. Elsewhere on the tour, Elizabeth is having a great time with the students. She even helps one of the bully boys become popular by supplying him with her undergarments. When Russell sees this, he becomes greatly impressed. He commends Elizabeth on her generosity, and in response, she compliments his honesty and good looks. Their romantic conversation is rudely interrupted, though, when Amy arrives at the scene and taunts Elizabeth that she is going to be arrested soon. Hearing this, our protagonist realizes that the stolen test papers have been found, so she comes up with a plan of her own. As soon as she heads home, she pays her roommate and orders him to deliver a package to Earl. When the latter receives the package and opens it, he finds several nude pictures of him, which Elizabeth had apparently taken when he was knocked out. This puts Carl in a very tough situation, as both the ladies are blackmailing him with their demands. But after a lot of consideration, he sides with Elizabeth and lies that he has never even met her. Then, Elizabeth herself steps forward and claims that someone in the school has been using narcotics in class. Here, it is revealed that she has already discovered that Amy had switched desks in her absence. While the lowermost drawer contains the test papers, the uppermost one contains narcotics. This drawer is still closed, and Amy has no idea what's inside it. Because of Elizabeth's claims, several cops storm the school and start searching through all the desks. When it's Amy's turn, the narcotics are found, and she is immediately taken into custody. This finally brings an end to the war between the two ladies. In the final scene, Scott approaches Elizabeth and asks her out on a date, expressing that he likes her, but surprisingly, she turns him down. She then turns to Russell and kisses him passionately, hence starting their relationship. Elizabeth also cancels her breast enlargement surgery, as she is no longer interested in attracting rich guys. The movie ends as Elizabeth promises to be a serious teacher and help all her students achieve excellent academic grades from now on.